Newton News is brought to you in part by the Village Bank. Your village, your bank. "54% of Newton's voters turned out for Super Tuesday, the presidential primary. The top four winners on the Democrat ballot were Joe Biden with 10,510 votes, Elizabeth Warren with 8,441 votes, Bernie Sanders with 4,994 votes, and Michael Bloomberg with 4,734 votes. For the Republican ballot, the two top vote getters were President Donald Trump with 2,065 votes and William Weld with 408 votes. This year's ballot also included a referendum question regarding the Northland Newton Project on Needham Street. The yes vote won with 18,565 votes over the no votes of 13,449 votes. Mayor Fuller, along with Superintendent Fleischman and Commissioner Youngblood, held a press conference regarding the coronavirus COVID-19. Fleischman stated that there are 19 students, 2 staff members, and 1 retiree who returned from Italy recently and are not allowed to come back to school until further notice.
We completely understand why people are unsettled. The risk in Massachusetts and here in Newton from the COVID-19 virus is low. There is only 1 confirmed case in Massachusetts. There are none here in Newton. This is a very emerging and rapidly evolving situation. We're speaking to you at 11 o'clock on Monday. The information we're giving to you right now is all current and correct. That may change over time. We have convened a COVID-19 emergency management committee here in Newton that is helping us with preparedness, decision-making, and communication. It involves all the key people you would expect, people from public health, public safety, our emergency management, Newton Public Schools, and other relevant departments. Let me just also talk for 1 minute about what the role is of a city during this period of an emerging infectious disease. We'll continue to do a lot on communication. We also, at the local level, are the ones who implement and monitor folks who are in isolation, quarantine, or social distancing situations. We make the decisions about closures and cancellations. We help people who are facing disruption in their lives. And if the day comes where we need to administer vaccinations, that also is the role of a city or town. Of course, we are also focusing on continuity of operations here in Newton. Please note that the City of Newton has been preparing for emerging infectious diseases for many, many years. The COVID-19 is a new infectious disease, but we have a lot of time and effort behind us making sure we are prepared. Let me close my comments by mentioning that history, no problem at all. Thank you. Do you want to join that in? History has seen many times where when there is an infectious disease, society has started blaming, excluding, or devaluing those feared to have the disease. That in turn leads to stigma and discrimination, which in turn leads potentially to worse health outcomes, as those folks who are stigmatized may not come forward to seek health advice. We here in Newton stand together during this period of concern. With that, may I turn it over to Superintendent David Fleischman.
Good morning. I'd like to begin by saying that this is an unsettling time for our community, our staff, and our students. It is particularly difficult for our students who have just returned from an outstanding educational experience in Italy. We made the decision to postpone returning our students from Italy to school under the direction of our partners here at the Department of Health and Human Services. To be clear, no student has been diagnosed with the COVID-19 virus, nor is anyone exhibiting any symptoms. All students have been asked to monitor their health, and we plan to provide updates to our exchange families upon further direction from Health and Human Services. The health and well-being of our students and staff is our top priority. We will continue to closely monitor the situation and make adjustments to our procedures should the guidance from our local, state, and federal officials change. We have been and will continue to work with the Department of Health and Human Services to follow the guidance set forth by the Centers for Disease Control and the Massachusetts Department of Health. As a district, we will support our students with health information and guidance. We will also support our students academically so that they can continue their studies. We know that our families have many questions, and we will continue to provide updates and information in the coming days. Thank you.
We're happy to take any questions that folks may have, and we'll try to direct it to the right person. What's on your mind?
How many students?
19 students.
All were different grades?
Yes.
And were adults as well, staff members?
Yes. We had 2 staff members and 1 retired teacher.
So that'd be 3 adults.
Exactly.
How long were they?
They were in Italy for a month.
And they got back on Saturday?
Yes.
Have you met with the students privately, with the group of 19 students at all, or just you just sent sort of a phone call type of communication?
Exactly. We communicated in a multitude of ways, and there's an opportunity for them to ask questions as well.
What are they doing in terms of classes? Are they doing any sort of online work or work at home?
We are working on a plan today. The Newton North administrator team met as a team, so that we can be in touch with students and support them both academically and emotionally, and there will be opportunities for them to work, and there will be no, of course, penalties for any late work, and that's something we're working on right now. We want to be sure that they can stay on top of their studies, and we'll provide all the necessary academic support.
Can you talk about the monitoring process? So no student or adult has shown the diagnosis, has not shown symptoms. Can you talk about the monitoring of the...
Correct.
Sure. Sure. So we asked our students to be looking to do self-monitoring and to take their temperatures twice a day and to be looking for those symptoms that are specific to the novel coronavirus. So that would be fever, shortness of breath, a cough, and that if they exhibit any of those symptoms, we've asked them to contact their health provider and to be in touch with their school nurse.
Does any of that extend to their family members?
So at this point, family associations of people who are returning travelers from Italy, there are no formal recommendations around altering your regular routines. They can go about their business.
Where did they travel in Italy? What part of Italy?
They were in Florence for 3 weeks, and they were in Rome for 1 week. They were gone for 4 weeks.
Any concerns about the Florence travel specifically, or?
Go ahead. Question is?
Just about any concerns about the travel in the Florence area of Italy. I don't know exactly what timetable they were there, but are there concerns about any excursions they may have gone on there, any exposure that may have been there?
Go ahead, sure.
Sure. So at this point, Italy as a country, just as of Saturday, was raised by the Centers for Disease Control to the level 3, which means avoid all non-essential travel. So we are concerned about Italy as a country because it does have sustained community transmission. That being said, we don't have any information at this point that our students were specifically exposed to anything.
And in terms of the students themselves, are they understanding?
Yes, I mean, I would use the term, it's unsettling. You know, students want to return to school, and certainly to postpone that has been unsettling. At the same time, and I think they understand the world we're in right now, and that's something that students have to learn, and we're all actually getting used to, you know, as a society. And I think our job is to support them, as I said earlier, academically, but also emotionally, make sure their counselors are in touch with them in case they have questions. And hopefully they'll be back in school as soon as possible, but we're going to, obviously, it's such a changing situation. We want to stay close touch with our Health and Human Services folks.
Is there an idea of how long they might, I mean, I know in your email it was sort of open-ended. I know what the incubation period or...
Yep. So a final decision has not been made about that yet. So what we decided to do over the weekend, again, as information was coming in quickly and changing, was to postpone their return to school. So we gave them that information. We have a regularly scheduled, the Health and Human Services has a regularly scheduled phone call with both our state partners and our federal partners at the Centers for Disease Control this afternoon. We're hoping that we'll be receiving more guidance from them about exactly how long we should be asking our students to postpone returning to school. And then we intend to be in further communication with our students in order to better let them know.
And the second question I have, now obviously these students were on an organized trip, but I mean, people travel for fun or whatever with their families on vacation. I mean, are you going to be sending out a general email? You know, what if somebody went on vacation to Italy? Right. Are you going to say, if you're a student, you went with your parents to Italy, do the same?
Yep. So we've sent out a number of different communications already. Both the mayor's office has sent out an extensive communication at the end of last week. The health department has sent out communications throughout the last month or so.
We did as well.
And the school department as well. And so, you know, we're going to be continuing to do that. There are no systems in place right now that would allow us to be gathering the information about everybody's travel itineraries who's a Newton resident. However, we are working to get the message out to community members about what they should do if they've been traveling and what they should be on the lookout for and who they should contact in terms of their healthcare providers.
And just to clarify, the timing was that they were going to be coming back on the 29th anyway. The issue was just simply postponing the return to school to stay at home and this resolved itself.
Yes.
This was I think this is on the website, but to me, for some of the details, these were exchange programs. These students were staying with families in Italy. Have any of those families had any issues with the illness?
They were staying with families for 3 weeks in Florence, and they were staying in a hotel for 1 week in Rome. And certainly, you know, we will be in touch with families. I mean, that's something that's very important and something we're looking at doing.
I'll just close by saying, please remember the most important thing that people can do here in Newton is wash your hands frequently, 20 seconds with soap, cover your cough or your sneezes, and if you have any symptoms, stay home.
The Massachusetts Infrastructure Grant Program over the last 5 years has awarded over $500 million for 220 projects in 140 communities for economic development. Newton was one of 97 applicants and was one of 37 finalists to be awarded a grant. The city of Newton was awarded a $396,000 grant for the designs of an extension of the Upper Falls Greenway and Petty Square. This comes to help Newton enhance the already existing structures in place and the possible future project of the Northland Project.
At the end of the day, we want to fund projects that accomplish two things. One is they're going to have an impact on a neighborhood, on a community, on a municipality, and maybe even the whole region and the whole state. And the other is that we want to fund projects that are consistent with a larger plan, where a community can say this project's important for us. This helps us achieve our objectives and our aims. And I always say, people ask us, what does MassWorks fund? Well, it can fund roads and streets and lighting and sewer and water and the basic building blocks of development. What MassWorks really funds is a community vision.
For this area, the community vision over the past 3.5 years has been the development of the 22 acres around the former Marshall's parking lot. The Northland Newton Project is up for a referendum vote on March 3rd, but this grant would be complementary to empower residents to use public transportation and walk or bike to work.
This project in particular that we're talking about today, the $400,000 that we're putting into the Greenway project and Petty Square is exactly the sort of thing that we like to do as a complement or an ancillary opportunity to enhance a significant development project, which in this case you're talking about a $500 million initiative. And from our point of view, these are exactly the kinds of projects we like to be part of. We like to be part of supporting communities as they reimagine old, valuable, underutilized or unutilized assets like this and help them figure out a way to stitch them more effectively into their communities as they think about where they want to go in the future. And for us, this is exactly the type of initiative that time and time again we have been honored and pleased to support in communities across the Commonwealth.
The MassWorks infrastructure grants across the Commonwealth have brought forth thousands of jobs to the Commonwealth and billions of dollars in investment.
That unleashes about $9.2 billion of private sector investment. It also creates more jobs and housing and just more opportunity. So the solutions, while government gets things started, really lie with developers and environmentalists and activists to bring their ideas forward, to rethink a downtown, to rethink a Main Street, to rethink an old building like this, and really bring the possibility to a reality.
One of those activists who brought his vision to a reality is Upper Falls' own Jerry Riley. Riley helped create the Upper Falls Greenway and is happy the state and the city are working again to create an expanded connection of walkable Newton.
I know, and I think everybody who lives in this neighborhood in Upper Falls knows, when the state and the city get together and do something, great things can happen. And about 5-6 years ago, that happened. The state owned an abandoned railroad line that was kind of run down, beat up. It was sort of a scar right through the middle of the village. The state turned it over to the city turned it into the Upper Falls Greenway. Now, it's, in the grand scheme of things, it's a modest thing. It's a mile long. It's not the Appalachian Mountain Trail. It's, but it's, in our neighborhood, it's been a huge thing. Over the years since it's been built, it's become our, it's like our fitness center. It's our dog park. It's our social club. It's our art gallery. The last 2 years, we've had art exhibitions all summer long. So for living in the neighborhood, this has been a huge thing, the city and the state coming together to build this thing. Since it's been built, we've had all kinds of stuff. We've had a parade down there. The Village Day, which used to be up in the park, it's been moved down here. The neighbors got together and built a bocce court last year. So it's kind of, done all these things. But the two things it's done that I love, it's got people walking and talking. Two things that are really near and dear to my heart, So today, with these two projects, once again, the state and the city are getting together, and I think it's got a huge potential for building on what was started years ago, knitting the neighborhood together, and most importantly, getting a lot more walking and talking going on.
The grant money will go towards designing the expansion of the Upper Falls Greenway past National Lumber and the revitalization of Petty Square. The city may tap into other state funds for the implementation of these projects. Jen Adams, Newton News, Newton Upper Falls. About 800 people attended a walk for Wuhan on Sunday, February 23rd. The Newton Chinese Language School started a fundraiser to get medical supplies for the medical teams at Wuhan University Hospital to help fight the coronavirus 19. The walk raised over $7,000 and showcased a positive and united image in the community. The mayor, along with many others, joined the walk from City Hall to Boston College. Here's Mayor Ruthanne Fuller to start off the walk.
This is a difficult time in the Chinese community, and now it is spreading to other parts of the world. As mayor, I stood with you yesterday. Today, I walk with you. I promise you can count on me to link arms with you tomorrow as well. We are joined by the chair of our school committee, Ruth Goldman is here. School committee member Anping Shen is here. But I know I am speaking for all the residents of the city of Newton. You are Newton. You are inextricably linked to Newton. We stand with you when tough time comes, and we'll also share the joy with you. We love you.
Autoimmunity is on the rise around the globe, with it affecting an estimated 50 million Americans. And diet has been proposed as the risk factor, but has been largely unstudied until now. Joining me in the studio to discuss their investigation between diet and autoimmune disorders are Iosif Gerstein, a systems immunologist at Ajax Biomedical Foundation, and Dr. Leonardo Ferrara, a molecular immunologist and human genome engineer at the Department of Surgery at University of California, San Francisco. Thank you very much for joining me today. This is a very interesting topic, and one that, as I stated, hasn't been studied that much. So why did you decide to do this study?
Well, we decided to do this study because we really wanted to systematically interrogate the relationship between diet and autoimmunity. And as autoimmunity is on the rise with over 50 million cases in America, we thought that looking into the specific foods that can perhaps cause autoimmunity or cause a flare-up of symptoms would be a very, very much a value-add product for these patients.
And it really is the diet that you found. So how does a diet help or hurt one's molecular setup for an autoimmune disorder?
Well, this is a very interesting question. So autoimmune disease, it's the body at war with itself.
Right.
It's in your immune system somehow escaped proper schooling, and you have some T cells, which are killing immune cells, that recognize and kill your own tissues. For example, in type 1 diabetes, they'll recognize and destroy your pancreatic beta cells that make insulin. And so this system happens, the immune system sees our cells based on these IDs called epitopes. Epitopes are sequences of proteins that are inside your cells, and they are presented on the surface of the cells. And so the immune system patrols your body. It will recognize and scan those IDs. And if something is wrong, for example, if this epitope is derived from a virus or from a cancer cell, it will be killed. In this case, the immune system sees your own epitope as something bad.
Right.
And so food also has proteins, and so these proteins will get processed by your body and become also epitopes, which in certain cases can be presented in an inflammatory context. For example, it depends on your diet. If you have a high-fat diet, high-sugar diet, processed foods, this could lead to food being presented to your immune system as something dangerous, something inflammatory.
And then your body will start attacking that or itself.
Correct.
In that regard. So what were you looking for, I guess, in foods that we eat, I guess, every day? What kind of foods were you looking for?
Well, we started out with a sample of 14 commonly consumed plants and animals. And what we did is we looked at the components of the protein. So the protein can be divided into peptides, and peptides further divided into epitopes. And so we looked at about 18,000 autoimmune-associated peptides, human autoimmune-associated peptides, and looked for overlap between those epitopes and the epitopes present in these 14 organisms. So we looked at pork, beef, lamb, as well as rice, quinoa, just a wide variety. And we were looking for outliers. We were looking for finding out, A, for which diseases, which animals contain more overlap, and also we were looking for unique overlaps.
So what was the process in order to find those unique overlaps? What process did you use to find those?
Well, so we started by really taking these 18,000 protein epitopes that have been previously implicated in autoimmune disease, and then we lined those up with the complete protein sequences of these 14 organisms. So pig, duck, quinoa, rice, etc.
Right.
And so we mapped those and we built this massive database where we can now go and cross-check each of these epitopes in animals in each specific human autoimmune disease. and looked at over 70 of those.
And you came up with, so what was your conclusion, like at the end of all of these different?
Well, what we did is we created indices. We created the GF index, which
you've named after yourself.
Yes.
Gersten-Ferrer
index. And what we did is we created graphs that would show which diseases have which overlaps per animal. So you can visually see which, per disease, where there is the most overlap, where is the highest risk, potentially, according to theory. And then we created one further layer, which is unique GF index, which finds which animals have most unique associations with that disease. And there we had one massive outlier, which was the pig. So the pig has roughly 700 unique epitopes that are associated with autoimmune disease. It maxed out our scale.
Do you happen to know why the pig was the one? Is it because it just eats anything? Do you have any idea as to how that came about, pig being the #1 cause?
It's a very good question. I guess one could say like genetic similarity definitely plays a role. So a pig is much closer to us than rice would be. And so this index for a pig is much higher than it would be for rice. But it's more than that. Like you could not predict, because as I also just said, there's like unique epitopes. So if you look at like total epitopes in like pig or beef, they're similar. But if you look at unique epitopes, there's almost 1,000 of those that are only found in the pig and nowhere else. At least in the 14, actually now 25 different food sources that we've looked at as of today.
And it's because it's very similar.
Well, we don't know why.
Right.
The tissues have more epitope level similarity than could be just predicted by genetic similarity.
But this study that you've done will now help further studies. So is that on the agenda, not necessarily from you, but in the future for other studies to happen to take a closer look at the pig perhaps, or other factors that may cause an autoimmune disorder?
Absolutely. So the first thing we're doing is we're extending the database. So right now we're up to about 25 animals.
Okay.
Additionally, we are trying to communicate with other researchers and share the epitope level data on the published GF index. And where this could lead is hopefully much better, more integrated dietary recommendations for autoimmune sufferers.
And that's the bottom goal, or I guess I should say the main goal is to get people to avoid having an autoimmune disorder, because as you say, it attacks. Your body's attacking itself at that point.
Correct. There's been many books written about this, and we hope that we bring like added value because of a systematic analysis of this problem. And it's an immune problem, so use immunology to understand this problem. And so actually our first paper got published this month. It's Journal of Autoimmune, of Translational Immunity. It's available online, open access. If you just Google immunodiatica, we're the first and only result on Google, and so you'll find our finalized first paper.
And that's where you can find all of the information that more than we've just discussed today. In more detail, we can find out more from the immunodiatica. I'm sorry, I can't really say that word.
Immunodiatica.
Thank you. Yes, so more people can find it that way. Well, thank you very much for sharing this study. It's very interesting, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Just reach in, grab a couple. Vicodin, Perks, Oxy. You're bound to grab something good.
Thanks, bro.
Before I forget, I have some paperwork to go over. Don't worry, it's just a formality.
What'd you say?
This one outlines the general side effects. This one talks specifically about how opioids impact the brain. Here's a list of emergency numbers. Poison control hotline is useful, 911, but you probably already know that number.
Wait, what just happened? When did you change into a suit?
Right, absolutely. Eventually, you're going to turn to heroin. You're going to need a few clean needles for that. It'd be a shame if you contracted HIV or even hepatitis. Oh, and this chart's pretty neat. Look here, it shows how much your addiction will cost over time, both on the drugs and eventually rehab. So I'm just going to need your emergency contact right here. Just sign here, initial here, initial here, initial here, and sign here. By the way, do you have a few more minutes? I got a quick PowerPoint I want to show you.
No, not really.
Don't worry, it'll only take a few minutes. Let me just fire up the projector. As your drug dealer, I want to be sure that you're fully informed so you know exactly what it is you're getting into.
Newton News was brought to you in part by The Village Bank. Your village, your bank.